President Trump continues his quest to, I don't know, ruin, destroy the world. I don't know what exactly he's trying to do, domestically with socialist policies and internationally with befriending all the wrong people and betraying all the right people. He is currently in somewhere in the Middle East. He was in Saudi Arabia. He has met with various dictators of various Arab Islamic dictatorships, uh, who he considers friends. And today he met with the president of Syria. The president of Syria, of course, the current dictator who ousted the previous dictator and is an Islamist. He is an Islamist from Al-Qaeda. So yeah, we've come a long way from 9/11, where actually I don't think people wanted to identify the problem back then, to 20, nearly nearly 24 years later, where we see the result of fighting a war without identifying your enemy. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Daniel. Daniel, your thoughts on this meeting, on Trump's visit, generally what he's been up to recently.
Syrian Constitution 2025, Article 3.1. The religion of the President of the Republic is Islam, and Islamic jurisprudence is the principal source of legislation. Islamic law is at the basis of the new Syrian regime. So this is not any kind of regime that will be, kind towards minorities. And by minorities, of course, most importantly, individuals. This is an Islamic regime as any other, and will be. And sort of like a question is especially with the sort of like second Trump's presidency, there is a question of, did we expect something different? And I think if you really think about it, as there were a few things that I knew are gonna be bad, and they were. A few things that I didn't know were gonna be bad and weren't. But this is one of the things where this is not even like the second Trump presidency. This is something that happened even during first one, right? He shook hands with Kim Jong-un, he's his best friend. He was friendly with Xi Jinping. He was praising Putin at every chance he got. This is his, he was talking nicely about the Saudis any chance he got. I mean, the information we learned about Syria was from his speech that he gave in Saudi Arabia, that I was watching live actually, and I watched it just before the show, and it really threw me off because he said crazy things there that I didn't even expect. So yeah, this is like his appeasement of dictators is something we've seen always, and this is not some sort of like 4D chess. This is the way he does. He appeases dictators, and he is tough on Western democracies and Western liberal democracies and the leaders of them. This is not surprising. I think Bonnie in the chat said Ayn Rand despised Nixon for going to China. Isn't this so much worse? I'm wondering if it's worse. I think because Syria is sort of like not really like an like something we are worried about that it's gonna like survive even probably. But giving it sanction is always a problem. But I think giving sanction to communist China, especially communist China of that era, I think was probably much more destructive than this sanction of Trump.
Yeah, I mean, there was a question: is it worse on principle? And I don't know. I mean, in both cases, you're basically endorsing or giving legitimacy to a dictator. So both are bad. China was on its way up in being a threat to the U.S. I don't think Syria is a threat to the U.S. But again, they can be an indirect threat. So in terms of the risk to the U.S., I don't think it's as bad in that specific sense. But on principle, it is up there. Now, on principle, there's even more. There's a symbolism to this. Donald Trump wasn't in politics before he ran for president for the first time. When 9/11 happened, he was a real estate mogul in New York, in Manhattan. That's where he made his money. That's why we know who he is. Uh, the hijackers who flew planes into buildings were Saudi mostly. The mastermind was Saudi. Trump is in Saudi Arabia, surrounded. He went to do this little hop of countries in the Middle East. Of course, going to only dictatorships, only Islamic dictatorships, and skipping Israel. So there's a symbolism here. I think there's a symbolism in um, in Trump doing this now after he sort of seemed pro-Israel at the beginning, is now very clearly shifting to being on some issues more anti-Israel than Biden. But this, I don't know how Americans can be okay with this. Remember, it's the same organization. It's not just generally some other Islamist. This is the same organization that did 9/11, and now the president of the US is shaking hands with somebody who, from that within that organization, managed to get to be more successful than other parts of the Islamic movement and actually take over a country. So I guess that's the standard. You can be against them if they attack you. If they have a country, they take over a country, they're now all of a sudden, and maybe there was a statute of limitations. I don't know. 9/11 was 24 years ago, so maybe it's not important anymore. But yeah, it says a lot, and it again, everything that Trump does, it also says a lot about his supporters. Because remember, what he's doing is to the left of Democrats historically, both on foreign policy and on his domestic policy. So yeah, I guess we will wait and see what happens. Daniel, have we lost Daniel? I am okay, we have lost Daniel. I'm still live. I think Daniel should join us any moment now. But yeah, here's another aspect of this, and Daniel touched on it, which is the current Syrian president, has done a lot in his life, um, to place him firmly beyond the pale as somebody you shouldn't deal with. But as president, in the short time that he's been president, we see what he's done, from early on taking over and executing people on the way to take over, to as president having his people or people associated with him go after the minorities in Syria, the Druze minority, the Kurdish minority, of course, shouldn't feel too safe, even if they're hearing that it's going to be okay. So yeah, this is who Trump is meeting with, is endorsing, and we see with Trump with these dictators, if they are convincing enough in whatever they say to him behind closed doors, because we're not there. But we see if somebody's convincing enough, Trump will change his mind on a daily basis on whatever the latest good argument he heard, he will go with. Okay, a couple of other things, but I will thank Jeff for the super chat. I'll thank Bonnie for the super chat, and I'll go to Daniel in case we lose him again, so we can get some of his thoughts in before that happens.
Yeah, so for that, I think I should be good now. So I'm not sure what everything you mentioned, but again, sort of like going back to the Saudis, and I mean, it is truly like I think because of how many crazy things Trump has done, it's becoming like new normal that people are sort of like getting used to. But just imagine he announced that he's gonna lift the sanctions on Syria, which America had sanctions on Syria for decades. This has been sort of like a policy there, and there has been no talks. And he simply announced it in Saudi Arabia unilaterally, like not talking to anybody. I don't even know if he himself can lift sanctions. Probably can if it's like a war situation. Maybe it is truly in sort of like his sort of like in his purview as the executive. But he simply like just announced it, and nobody knew that was gonna happen. The room was silent. Nobody expected that was going to happen, and what you heard, the whole silence, and you just had the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, giving the standing ovation. And Trump after that said, "Oh, what I would do for the crown prince." Like, this is the person who says is like bought by the Israelis that Trump is doing everything from the for the Israelis, and he does this, which again is has nothing to do with American interest in the region, is again sort of like purely to appease the dictators in the region, whether it be Syria or the Qataris or Saudi Arabia, and yeah, people are talking a lot about corruption, right? The sort of the jet from the Qataris apparently is gonna get some like Trump Tower in Syria, golf course in Qatar, some deals in Saudi Arabia, and I never really like to talk about corruption too much because while it's a problem, I think usually the problem is much deeper. But in this scenario, again, I think problem is sort of like more with Trump himself than the corruption. It can be seen. It's like visible. It's pure, and I don't think it will change anybody's mind. So we are truly living in a one hell of a times.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary, for the super chat. Mary earlier said Attila meets the witch doctor. Yeah, that is what we're seeing. And there's a few other things I wanted to. Paul says it's not going to end well for Israel now. No, but that's on Israel. Israel should have done more immediately on October 7th and 8th, and it didn't. It should have done more even with Biden's limitations to the extent that it could have. And it definitely should have done more once Trump came into office and was for Israel. We said this on the channel. If Trump is pro-Israel today, act today, because tomorrow he may completely change his mind. And we knew it was coming. I didn't think it would happen this fast, but there's no way of telling with this guy. So yeah, Israel, when Trump said Saturday, there will be hell to pay at this time if all the hostages are not released, that was the moment where tens of thousands should have been killed in Gaza immediately. And Netanyahu should have then, a few minutes later, put out a statement. We're just getting started, but we're going to give you 5 minutes, a 5 minute pause to release the hostages, something like that. So in a sense, I think Trump sees Netanyahu for the weak leader that he is, and does what he can, and respect. Maybe he respects dictators. We knew that before, so he certainly respects them more than he respects whatever Netanyahu is giving him now. Thank you, Gail, for the super chat. Yeah, another point was the sanctions. Yeah. So again, the timeline here is important. Decades of sanctions that are lifted when Trump becomes president, like right after Syria went from some sort of fascist, socialist dictatorship to an Islamic dictatorship. That is when America sees Syria as an ally. When Al-Qaeda takes over, big red flag. Even though the communists are out and the Islamists are in, big red flag for Americans. You have 3.5 years of this guy at least, and you know pay attention. And I don't know what you can do, but if you can do something, do it.
Well, it's called impeachment. There's a lot of things the American, well, not the American people, the people representing the American people could do if they do disagree with this. And I've seen some Republicans sort of speaking out against this. I mean, I think even they were caught by surprise. I mean, everybody was caught by surprise. Probably Trump's cabinet itself. And yeah, like they have to realize, like if this is the kind of sort of leadership we want, then yeah, go forward. And yeah, I think it's clear that sort of that there is sort of like a rift being created between Netanyahu and Trump, between Israeli government and Trump's administration. I mean, just recently we had sort of the release of Eden Alexander, and you had the hostage families thanking Trump, thanking Witkoff, and not mentioning Netanyahu at all. So there is, and you had Witkoff talking about how he cares to bring all the hostages home, and Netanyahu doesn't care enough, or that Israel doesn't care enough to actually bring the hostages back home. So again, this amount of like trying to take control of the sort of like a narrative trying to delegitimize Netanyahu's moves, which I think definitely do warrant some delegitimation, but not in terms of that he was fighting the war too harshly or that he was not negotiating enough for the hostages. Um, so yeah, it's I don't know where we go from here. Like Netanyahu has said that he is going back into Gaza. He will occupy it forever. He said to a few of the some of the IDF soldiers when he was speaking to them publicly. So yeah, on yesterday's episode, I said, you know, in the next week, like I think this is going to be decided in like the next week or next 2 weeks because I don't know how like this status quo that is right now can continue. Either Israel will surrender and completely bend to Trump's will, or Israel will finally decide to go into Gaza, and then I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what we can expect as the reaction from Trump.
So I do think, and I certainly hope that Trump doesn't manage to put enough pressure on Israel to capitulate right before Operation Gideon's chariots, which from what I understand is is going to be a bit more. And also Netanyahu's rhetoric, he talks about this being where Hamas is eliminated. This is embarrassing stuff. Unless he thinks this is really, there's a real opportunity with this operation and whatever is being done differently with this one, then, we talked about, before Trump was inaugurated, we talked about how, for years we're going to have a problem figuring out what to do shows on, and more importantly, what not to do shows on, even though it's newsworthy, because Trump is going to give us newsworthy stuff all the time. Normally, maybe under Biden, we would today talk about the fact that Israel yesterday tried to eliminate Mohammed Sinwar. Yeah, there's more where that one came from, and he is the current leader, if he's still alive, the current leader of the Hamas military wing, basically in Gaza. In really a very impressive operation that looked kind of like the operation to get rid of Nasrallah. They were like, yeah, we're going to kill him. If he's there, he's going to die no matter what. Bombed, what do they call, rescue forces when they came over to make sure that if they're breathing any dangerous gases, to make sure anybody who survived will definitely die. So that's one thing. And I think this operation, look, it's not going to be what I'd like to see, but it will be, I think, closer to it than previous ones. And we have seen Israel escalating the way they do things, and really learning Gaza again, because things have changed in the 20 years that Israel has been gone. But the question is, will this operation happen? And will Trump maybe decide not to allow it? I mean, maybe today he would allow it if it started, and maybe tomorrow he'll change his mind. Trump, one of the bizarre things that he said over the last few days was that, maybe it was today, that Israel deserves credit for the release of the hostages, but nobody deserves more credit than me and my team. In a sense, that's true. Nobody deserves more credit for saving Hamas since Trump has been in office than Trump, with the possible exception of Netanyahu. But he does make these statements, and he is, he sees the fact that something has his signature on it as more important than actually it being the right thing, and Israel should fear that. Trump also mentioned Syria will be included in the Abraham Accords at some point, and that Syria will recognize Israel. Maybe, but that's not a good thing.
Yeah, and also it won't happen. Trump doesn't have like recognizing Israel would mean the territorial dispute will have to be resolved. Golan Heights have to be resolved if you ever hope to sort of like there is no way Syria can recognize Israel without recognizing the borders they control. And America
Why?
is
Why?
uh, I because like what does it mean to recognize Israel at that point if
What
you
does it
don't?
mean that all these countries recognize Israel and refuse to have their embassies in Jerusalem? I think Israel is in a special status in terms of some countries will pay lip service to accepting its existence, but don't actually want it around. And yeah, so I think that's not going to be the sticking point. It will be the sticking point for normalization and peace.
Yeah, but even then, I don't think Trump can sort of like negotiate anything. He never did so. He never did anything on the political scale. I mean, again, like people have to realize, like people should realize, what are the countries Abraham Accords? Most of them are not even in the Middle East. It's like Sudan, Morocco, uh, I think like Emirates, and one one small other thing in next to Saudi Arabia. So yeah, it's like those countries were never like a problem for Israel. Those countries were never like, oh, like Bahrain. Thank you so much. Those countries were never like, oh, like that's like a serious problem that has to be resolved. And and even then, like Israel has no business, sort like has no need to recognize relations with these countries, or it's not, it doesn't benefit from them in any way. We've seen what recognition, like, yeah, Egypt recognizes Israel. What has that brought them? It means America is subsidizing the Egyptian military like insanely. There are still weapons going from Egypt into Hamas. That they are getting there. There were clashes between Egypt and Israel, and there are still hostilities. It is not like a safe thing that you just travel across the border like it's EU or something. It's not a friendly relation. So yeah, it's. I think there was one more other thing I wanted to add on this. Oh yeah, sort of the operation in Gaza. I mean, if it's gonna be like they say it's gonna be, including like actual occupation of parts of it. Now, I don't know if that makes sense, sort of for a long-term occupation. I'm not sure if you can like start occupying certain parts of the area, distribute the aid, and basically sort of bring them in as in you are now under Israeli jurisdiction without actually finishing off the population. I mean, breaking the spirit of the population, letting them know that you've lost and now something is going to change. Instead, it's going to be this slow, okay, we kicked Hamas out and you people don't have to change in any way, but now you are under Israeli occupation, which means, I mean, the question is how much is going to change. In the past, Israel has already delivered a lot of the aid, delivered electricity, delivered water. So what is that going to change for the Palestinians? It's just going to inspire a third intifada because, again, now we are under occupation.
Yeah, by the way, I was a bit distracted because, we have different types of trolls in the chat, but today we have a truther for the first time. I don't know if ever or for a long time, but yeah, it's funny to see them say, uh, yeah, the US was behind 9/11, where I think, obviously conspiracy theorists do not need evidence for anything they believe in. But if you were going to try to get any evidence of collaboration between the US and the people who did 9/11, the closest thing that I've ever found was a picture from today. So that's, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
and
thing. Yeah.
just a quick thing on the thing. Like, I love this because like these conspiracies don't even make sense. Like, yeah, Bush like did attack on his own country to invade Iraq.
Afghanistan to drop food and medicine. Yeah, America did that as well. They're not just demanding it of Israel. Yeah, it's a very interesting world that conspiracy theorists live in. And by interesting, I mean something that if you look into, you might find entertaining, but really is a waste of time. Uh, but something else that I'm interested in, which might be a waste of time, is political slogans. I always think, because slogans, there's an art to it. It's very difficult to say something that's catchy enough, inspiring enough, doesn't contain enough content because it can't, because you can't put an essay on a sticker. So I always ask, what does it mean with a slogan? Because of how broad they are. So like, and it doesn't matter which side of the political map, compassion, conservatism. What does that mean, other than the not so subtle dig at all conservatives prior to the conservative who used that slogan? Hope and change. I think 100% of voters uh, worldwide would agree that hope is a good thing, and they want some things to change. There are a lot of things I want to see changed that I would rather see stay the same than changed in a way that most people suggest changing them. But I think America first is something I understood today what that actually means, because Trump is not the first to use it, but what does it mean when he uses it? And yeah, today or in recent days, it very much looks like what America First means is selling America to the death to America crowd. How that puts America first, I don't know, but those are the particulars of the wider abstraction as Trump presented it. Yeah, his defense of agreeing to take that plane was very weird. Saying what should we have done? Paid double for not taken gifts from Qatar, not pretend that Qatar is anything other than an enemy. You shouldn't even have an embassy there, let alone travel there and get an American plane from them as a gift. So yeah, a lot to worry about. Parting thoughts, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he knows what like corruption is. I don't think he understands that concept because the idea is it's not necessarily even that if you take something from, let's say, a foreign government or from an individual that is sort of like being done sort of like covertly, it's not necessarily that you will change your opinion based on something you got. It's the fact that the conflict of interest itself, the fact that there is a possibility of you as somebody who should be sort of like beyond influence, or at least beyond sort of like the covert influence. Like if people want to support your campaign, they can do that. But that conflict of interest is like what's problematic. And his answer to it is like, well, am I not supposed to like take money if somebody offers me? Like somebody offered me money for free. Why shouldn't I take it?
By the way, is this a thing? Has this ever been a thing where um, they get the plane, it's going to be used as Air Force One, and then Trump gets it to keep afterwards? Like, how is
Well,
that?
it's gonna be kept within like the presidential library, so it is like a it is like a governmental organization. So it's still gonna technically like stay within the government. He won't have
Okay,
it
he can't
private.
use it as a private jet.
No, shouldn't be able to.
Should shouldn't or won't be able to. Like, will he be using this
Look,
plane
he
as
sh
a private citizen?
he shouldn't be able to deport people just like suddenly out of like yeah, he shouldn't be able to use it as a private citizen after he leaves office. But like, I don't know, 3 years is a long time.
On that note,
If law is upheld, yeah, he as a private citizen will not have access to that. Only as a president, and then it will be in the presidential library.
if the law is upholded as a sentence we're going to repeat a lot in the next 3.5 years. Um, that is not a great note to end on, but luckily, that's why we have two shows. So the second show, you guys will enjoy some really, really good Palestinian propaganda and commentary on it. We provide the commentary, the rest of the world provides the propaganda. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. The reality show starts in a couple of minutes.